Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, 5:45 p.m., November 2nd. Prices of Bitcoin currently at $13,593. So we had a bit of a movement overnight, like I stated in the morning video for Advantage members, and we see that it blew through two trend lines we were watching. First one right there, and then second one, and then we pierced through the second one. Yet we found support on the second one. And that second trend line actually comes from this tap right here, second, third, and then fourth, right? So the way I'm looking at the market right now is the fact that we came back to this key SR level. If you can see going across the board, right? Right there, right there, right there. We came back to retest that area as resistance. As long as we test that as resistance and we don't break above and hold like this, it's quite possible that from here we roll back over to the downside, at least towards this trend line and quite possibly towards the bottom trend line. Now, I took a small scalp short position. And again, I have not been a big fan of shorting the market through, once I got out of my short way the heck back here, I just longed. I just perpetually longed, whether it was Bitcoin or altcoins. Now, of course, altcoins did not go so well, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. But as I had urged most people to consider not shorting from here all the way up, if you would have bought any or all of the pullbacks on any of these, retracements right here, you would have been good, right? You would have targeted that 14,000 level like we did. We sold out at 14,000 and we haven't really looked back on longs since. Now, of course, I'd mentioned a couple of areas that you could long. Even this morning, if you watched the video for Advantage members, we were in this area when I made the morning video, and I stated that if you want to long, your stop could be just below this area, $13,200 or so. And your first target would be 13,550, and then quite possibly up here around the monthly open and the weekly open, which are these targets right over here on the side. Okay. Now I had drawn these Fibonacci levels from this key high to this key low because it helps us understand two things. Okay. If we are heading back into, let's just say the golden pocket, which is the 618 retracement right here, and then we start rolling to the downside once more. Well, that's a good area that we could potentially, again, get into a short position or add to our short position. Or what we could do is from here, if you think that there's a scalp opportunity from here on the way up towards 13.8, 13.9, that's another way. Personally, I don't feel at present moment that longs are good in this area because I believe that this area is going to be a little bit choppy going into tomorrow and probably the rest of the week for the reasons that I stated this morning, which was the election is coming up tomorrow. Markets are sort of bracing for this big event. We all know it's on the horizon. It's not a surprise to anyone. And so for the most part, I believe that the markets are probably going to create a larger range. Going into tomorrow, maybe even going into next week, and quite possibly maybe even the rest of November, okay? Because when you have such a big event, such as the presidential election, the only thing that the markets are trying to do is figure out which side of the market is the risk on, okay? And if that happens to be that the long side is deteriorating and the risk is more apparent to the downside, meaning there's not as much support in the market, maybe because stimulus is not being passed for another 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, I don't know. That could be another risk that the market will try to price in. Now remember, with the stock market will probably be BTC potentially heading lower if the stock market starts to head lower. Now, I hear a lot of people talking about, have we started the decoupling and has Bitcoin just started to break out and start moving up? I think for now, that is a fair argument because we did break up really nicely. But remember, when it comes to markets that are event driven, especially when we know that stimulus and the elections are on the horizon, especially given that Bitcoin has been overextended so much and we tagged 14,000, which is a key level. Remember, it's a key level coming back from this key high. So we took a lot of liquidity above this area. All right. It's possible that maybe we make another pop up, but it's also, more than possible that from here we pull down a little bit, we retrace for a few reasons. Number one, we tag pretty much the top of this parallel channel, as you can see, right? We had a channel touch at the bottom, top, bottom, and we've pretty much come to the top. Not only that, after doing so, we hit the $14,000 marker, which was, again, the previous high from June 2019. And of course, once we got rejected, right, you can make the argument that this was maybe a bearish SFP, meaning this was the key high of this candle, this red candle that you see. This candle wicked pretty high, but then prices start to roll over. That is the definition of a bearish SFP. On top of that, after this bearish SFP, we had a candle close slightly lower, kind of like a doji. And this one is shaping up to be a bearish candle, a hanging man, whatever you want to call it. So you have a bearish SFP, a follow-up candle that was slightly bearish, another follow-up candle that was definitely so far more bearish. So this is setting up to be at least another day or two, maybe another week of chopping around in this range at the very least. Again, that's at the very least. Not to mention, as per our indicator down here, right? Remember that we have the Shepherd indicator that helps us identify bearish divergences quite easily. And it helps us understand that we have a overbought signal coming up, okay? And this blue or aqua line right here is signaling that momentum itself is slowing down, it's waning. And if we start getting that cross under this area, it's very possible that we start rolling to the downside. And that means that BTC should start hitting the targets that we have set out for us, which is 13,200 right here, 13,275 or so, 13,000, and then way the heck down here, which is the range low around $12,600. Okay. So these are the things that you want to be keeping an eye on. All right. Now, let me see here. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about Bitcoin dominance, something that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks since way the heck back here. We've come back to this red zone, which was the previous SR level, right? Support, 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 and now back into resistance. Why is the Bitcoin dominance important to us? Well, it helps us identify two things. When Bitcoin itself is starting to roll over to the downside, okay, you can look at it a couple different ways. Does the dominance stay relatively high even as Bitcoin rolls over in terms of its price? If it does, that means altcoins are actually losing more on a percentage basis than Bitcoin is. Now, here's a perfect example. I want you to pay attention to the Bitcoin dominance daily candle. Notice how it's a nice, strong green candle, right? Bitcoin today, if you look at the top address bar right here, or the top tab, it's down about negative 1.32%. Now take a look at Link. Link is down about negative 6.69%. Let's check out ETH. ETH is down 3.28%. Okay, so you see the example that I'm talking about, right? Dominance up, Bitcoin price down, and altcoins down. This has been a correlation that we've sort of been talking about for the last couple of weeks, which was we were hoping that Bitcoin dominance at some point would roll over around this moving average, the 200 moving average, and roll over, maybe even hit this red zone right here, the previous SR level, and then maybe roll over. But neither of those things have happened so far. So one can only assume that even as Bitcoin rolls over in price and dominance, keeps at a pretty steady high, one could make the argument that altcoins may not be catching a breather yet. We need to start seeing that shift happen where if Bitcoin goes down, right, we need to see dominance go down with it, and we need to see altcoins at least basing out. Or if Bitcoin dumps a lot, okay, altcoins also dump a lot, but as price climbs up for Bitcoin slowly, hopefully what it does is it trades in a range like this. Okay. And I think that's possible because guess what? We've done it before. We've done it way the hell back here, right? Where is it? Way over here. Okay. Which was in July, August, all the way through September, right? In this general range, we had altcoins do fairly well. We've done it another time way the heck back here, which was April all the way through July before it broke out towards, $11,000 or $12,000. And if you look at both those events, look at dominance. Look at dominance rolling over, right? So you can see that this is a different event. Why? Because dominance is climbing, and no matter what the hell Bitcoin does, okay, whether it goes up or down, altcoins are getting not crushed, but they're not really doing anything. In fact, they are slowly rolling over, okay? So the argument right now is that we do not want to just blindly long altcoins just because you think that, okay, well, Bitcoin has gone up so much, altcoins need to play catch up, because I tried that and I was wrong, right? We closed out in a couple of trades at some losses. We lost 3% in ETH, 3% in Link, 12.5%, 13% in Theta. And I'm okay with that because I was wrong on my thesis. And now I'm going to go back to the drawing board and do what I need to do, which is to try to figure out what is Bitcoin going to do in the near term, in the medium term, and then how altcoins are going to react. For now, what I see is Bitcoin is probably going to be trading in a range, and I want to take advantage of that. And at least for now, capitalize on the idea that from here, if we trade in a range, I think we're probably going to break to the downside, maybe in a couple days, maybe next week, something like that, because I do believe a retracement is due. And so for that, I am currently short. ETH right now, tapping the pivot. But again, don't think of right now as this pivot as being the clear support and clear base that ETH needs to hit, and then we're going to go straight up. Because here's the thing. There was a previous pivot back here, which is a key SR level, and ETH broke right through it just a couple of days ago, right at the end of October. So this to me is not really a promising sign, right? As ETH is kind of heading towards this area, I want to see a bullish candle like this, or at least a doji like this show up in the next couple of days. That will then tell me, okay, maybe it's possible that ETH is coming to a temporary bottom, and then we can make the argument that we've made consistent, higher lows like that, okay? But until then, let's just wait on ETH. Let's just see exactly what the heck is going on, all right? Chaos is asking, if more people expect BTC to pump, they could be selling from alts and stable into BTC to ride that wave up. But if BTC or the stock market dumps, then the dump could be very quick as people rush to stable. That's a very good point, okay? Do you have a best guess play for what will happen if either candidate wins the election? All right, my best guess right now is, for the most part, I don't think that there are many surprises that the stock market is going to worry about. The one surprise that could happen, like Raoul Pal said in his video this morning that I told you all about, was it's possible that the election goes into a potential, I don't know, not a recount, but rather a delay. And a delay of the election, because things are up in the air, markets do not like uncertainty. It doesn't matter if you give them a Trump win or a Biden win. They'll deal with it. They'll reprice things. They'll move forward with rotations in different sectors, carry on risk with certain markets or de-risk in other markets, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter. Those things, in my opinion, are already accounted for because we know either Biden wins or either Trump wins. But what we have not accounted for is, let's just say, if we start seeing more riots, we start seeing a delay in election results, if we start seeing, I don't know, maybe even COVID news starting to ramp up more and hospitals filling up and, more of that kind of panic ensuing in the market. See, these things are not accounted for. But probabilistically, the best guess is if either candidate is declared, even in this coming week, as a winner, the way I'm looking at the markets is they're pretty good, meaning I think the markets are going to range. I don't see a scenario where the markets are going to sell off if either candidate wins, because here's the thing. Fiscal and monetary policy from the Fed is going to stay the same. It's not going to change. So I don't get the hurrah about who's going to win and who's going to be better for the market. In fact, I even posted a survey going back to Jimmy Carter days when they compared the Dems and the Republicans and who was better for the market. It doesn't matter. They're relatively the same. So who the hell cares, right? Here's where I'm thinking about Bitcoin, though. Personally, I think Bitcoin, because it's ran up so much further versus the stock market kind of being around this area, pretty much at range low like it was around September, middle of September, I think Bitcoin kind of needs to chill out, maybe chop around in this race, in this range, and that could be good for altcoins, like I've said before. Now, of course, my thesis was a little early if we do range and then we start seeing altcoins push up, okay? But that would mean that I'm not wrong on my thesis. And if I'm not wrong on my thesis, then in this next leg, okay, whenever Bitcoin starts ranging, I personally think that we want to be long altcoins and probably be spot long BTC, but not, just perpetual longs or anything, because that's not going to help you, right? If you're perpetual long in BTC, you're not going to get that much volatility, especially if you're in a range. But what the range will help do for altcoins is we will get tremendous movements out of altcoins if history has, anything to show of past movements in any way, rhyming to today's movements. Okay. But at present moment, right, that's not the case. I don't really know if that's going to happen, because Bitcoin has been the clear breadwinner of this whole batch of cryptos so far. Okay. It has absolutely shredded the market over the last several months. So what I want to be doing right now is paying a close attention to how Bitcoin is going to be moving tomorrow, how altcoins are going to be moving tomorrow, Bitcoin dominance, and all those other things. The other thing that I spoke about this morning, GBTC. Okay, GBTC, in my opinion, is kind of doing this flag thing, maybe also something similar like a running flag that I talked to y'all before, right? So remember, there's different kinds of patterns. There's this kind of flag like this, and usually bull flags like that tend to break out. Then we have, bull pennants where we have something like this. Price kind of, moves up, chops around, tightens up, and then breaks out. Then we have running flags, which in my opinion are kind of my favorite, because more often than not, we get a nice pop to the upside like we did back here, which again, we spoke about this pop to the upside back here when I talked about that running flag. So where we are right now is, this is what we have. Okay. This is our running flag. We're still in. Okay. So at present moment, we can make the argument that that running flag could still break out to the upside, and Bitcoin could just shit on all these short positions that are, potentially hoping for the breakdown. This is why even my current short position, it ain't that large, because I don't want to be, going heavy in shorts. It'd be really foolish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be playing level to level plays, because that's easy money, right? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong by a little. If I'm right, I'm playing, the big drops to the downside, whether it's 13.2, 13,000, or 12.6. Okay, those would be my targets to the downside for the short positions. But if it breaks up, okay, I'm wrong by a little, but I'm already spot long in BTC. I'll just add on to my long and go, long my longs, and I'll start targeting things like 14,000 and 15,000 as the higher targets. Okay. So yeah, let's get back to the GBTC conversation. Okay. So I spoke about GBTC this morning, and I said that if you look on the high of June 2019 for GBTC, right? we put in a high of 1740 on GBTC on June 26, 2019. Today, that high where we are right now is 15.51. That was today's close on GBTC. Guess what's different? Okay. If you look on Bitcoin spot or Bitcoin derivative contracts, right, we are way higher in terms of prices. Okay. We even actually took out the previous high by a wick, but then of course, came back a little bit. Well, you see GBTC is pretty far off. In fact, we're actually close to about 10 to 10.5% off the previous high. Okay. So where we are right now, 10 to 11%. There's a few ways to look at that. Number one, it's possible that GBTC is maybe telling us something about Bitcoin in a sense that there's not that much buying activity as most would think. Okay, maybe the market itself is being ran up into key resistance levels just to get people hopeful and just to get people to buy or long resistance, which in fact, in this area, I saw multiple people posting on Twitter that from here, we have to break up and head towards 16, 17, 20,000. We don't really have to do crap. Okay. We just hit the key resistance area and we rolled over. Now it's up to the bulls to prove to us that in this rejection right here, they can pick up the slack and start driving this market higher and higher. See, this is the thing that most people fail at, which is they often look at markets and they think that, well, we tapped a particular area and that's all that was needed. Okay. Just because we tap 14,000, that means we have to go to 15 or 16. That's not how it works. When you start tapping a particular area, that just means that that area was tagged, but then the reaction to that is far more important and imperative for us to understand what exactly that reaction means. A reaction like this, like I stated earlier, a bearish SFP, a follow-up bearish doji, a much more bearish candle, and now today we get to see if we're going to head a little bit lower or if the bulls pick up the slack and we head higher. Okay, this to me right now is at least a pause and wait play in terms of longs, and at least it's a potential scalp short play from level to level, not a scalp short from here going down here or anything as such. I'm not going to be that foolish to say, all right, this is the top and we're going to dump. That would be really dumb. But at present moment, I think it's best to be cautious. Okay. I think GBTC is also telling you something is off. Okay. Now that something off, by the way, could also be bullish, that the GBTC buying activity may not be to the previous highs, which means that the droves might be coming in soon. And if the droves are coming in soon, meaning the people who are willing to pay a higher premium for the GBTC prices, remember, GBTC is nothing but an ETF on Bitcoin. Okay, it's a product that's created for people who want to utilize their 401ks. They want to use the traditional brokerage firms like Fidelity or Charles Schwab, E-Trade, all these firms to access Bitcoin as a secondary asset that they can have in their portfolio without actually buying Bitcoin. So if you're buying GBTC, you're effectively long Bitcoin. So like I actually have in my IRA account GBTC exposure. So I'm already long Bitcoin in that sense. But I also, of course, have BTC spot, and then I have BTC long or short positions, depending on that, right? So I have not seen the same kind of excitement yet in GBTC or these products catching fire. Now, that could be a good thing, like I said, because maybe in the next month or two, maybe that does catch fire. And once that catches fire, remember, GBTC as a SEC regulated product, okay, Grayscale as a SEC regulated firm, if they see buying activity keep happening in the market, they have to actually go out into the market and buy Bitcoin to ensure that the amount of GBTC that they have, or that they're rather selling, is equivalent to some degree to the amount of Bitcoin that they have in their reserves. Okay. So I would figure that if GBTC starts leading the market again, more than likely, Bitcoin prices are going to keep going up, right? I mean, you don't have to be a genius to understand that. So that is the other argument, which is GBTC could be lagging. And if we get that nice pop, maybe next week, next month, or something like that, well, then we could see, Bitcoin prices start shooting up towards 15,000, 17,000, maybe even 20,000 quite easily. All right. Let's check out the Bitcoin futures right here. So futures doing okay. I was checking out some of the futures this morning, whether it's the ES and BTC. So the one thing that Faisal and I noted was there's a bit of lower activity in terms of volume. Okay. Now, again, that makes sense because we're going into election time and volume is probably going to be lower because, again, it's a lot of uncertainty in the market, right? You're not going to see a high volume because there's not certainty or conviction in a particular area or a direction in the market. Okay, maybe things need to calm down, retrace a bit, volatility needs to smooth out. Maybe some longs or shorts need to get wiped out. I don't know. But I'd probably say, for the most part, ranging is probably going to be the one way we can say the market's probably going to be moving towards. Okay, so if Bitcoin starts ranging, then look towards the other scenarios that I spoke about, which is potential of altcoins moving a little bit higher, percentage-wise. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about is, we were thinking about opening up a Uniswap channel of some sort. But after talking to our members, it seemed like, most members are also kind of on the fence about things because Uniswap really just seems like it's a total gamble, right? Sometimes your investment can go up 30, 50, 100%, or sometimes your investment can dump 50% overnight. So these are the things that I personally believe it's almost like being in a casino, and more often than not, the odds are highly stacked against you. And so I don't really want to encourage our members to go near Uniswap. If you want to do that on your own, whether it's the pre-sales or the Uniswap, go for it. We're always there to support you. And if we have to answer questions, we will. But for the most part, I do want to encourage you guys to be a little bit more careful in these kinds of conditions in the market, because I know it may feel like you have to catch the 20, 50% swings that other people are catching. But more often than not, most people will get a little too greedy, will have their account wiped or their capital wiped. And I don't want our members to go through that. Okay. Remember, try to treat trading like a marathon. Okay. If you treat it like a marathon, you will respect it for the amount of work that you have to put in, the due diligence that you have to put in, the daily grind that you have to go through day in and day out. And also that the results or the high that you get from quote unquote finishing the marathon, you don't get that right away. It takes a long time to build. And that euphoria you get through your run, through your trading experience. It's not just a one time, you make a bunch of money and then in a week or a month, you give it all back to the market. Okay. All right. Let me see. Steven says Link is dumping. Yeah. So I am not really surprised that Link is dumping. Oh, it's not down that much. It's down maybe like 1% or 2%. But again, broke below the pivot, closed below it. Now it's up to the Link Marines or the Link Bulls to drive this thing back up above the pivot. In fact, I would go as far as to say that this is probably the level that we want to be looking out for. Okay, 1125. That is the level that we need to climb back above. If we don't get that, I don't really know what that means. In fact, it could mean that Link goes a little bit lower. Maybe it comes back towards this low, $10, $10.25, something like that. Okay. But personally, we have to see exactly how the whole dominance play is going to play out. If BTC is going to get weaker, if altcoins are going to start, maybe gaining some strength. I still honestly want to believe my thesis. I personally believe that altcoins are going to, um, push back up, but I just don't want to be exposed to altcoins right now, right? At least not at present moment. Um, let me see here. So I think, closed out Link at 11 something, like 11:30s or something. So you could see right now it's down another 6% from where we closed out. Okay, and let me see if I can show you all some proof. That was our theta position that we closed out at a loss. Let me see, DeFi spot. Nope. Sushi. Let me see. Yeah, so this was our link position, right? We closed out 3.2%. And then ETH, we also closed out at 2.98%. So, it may have felt like over the past several days, well, we should have just held on. But, when the markets are not showing you strength, it's quite the opposite. If they're not showing you strength, they're showing you weakness, right? It's pretty simple. And if they're not showing you weakness, hopefully they're showing you strength, or maybe they're basing out or something. But at present moment, it just doesn't seem to be the case. Now, if you wanted to take a little bit more aggressive risk, and again, this is for those who who want to take that kind of heightened risk, you could long Link right here, right now, and add down all the way with a stop just below this area. Because here's the thing: if we are right about, let's just say, our overall direction of Bitcoin dominance potentially rolling over, BTC prices ranging, and then altcoins, of course, breaking out. Well, then what Link needs to do is it needs to maintain these higher lows. Okay. If it maintains the higher lows, we should be making our way back towards this key resistance area pretty fast, pretty swiftly. Okay. But again, it has to maintain those higher lows. Again, not investment advice, but if you want to be on the slightly higher risk side, that's what I would do is, you could add on the way down. Now, of course, I'm not doing that. I'm literally telling you, I'm not doing that. I'm not willing to do that because I don't want to be that far out on the risk curve, because I don't really know what Bitcoin is going to do. I don't know if dominance is going to come down. Okay. These are all thoughts of, if this, then that, right? So I'm trying to figure out what the market's trying to do. At present moment, I'm happy to just be in a scalp short position. I'm happy to just wait out and see exactly what the heck the elections are going to do for us in terms of this coming week. And we'll go from there. Okay. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Anything else y'all want me to cover? Again, on the advantage side, make sure y'all check out these channels that Harry puts out his analysis, the Alpha Indicator Suite. We also have the 30% discount if you do want to try out this indicator. Okay. In my opinion, again, it's very simple, but you don't need to buy it, right? You, of course, get my daily analysis, 2 videos a day for whatever price you pay. But this is, again, a separate indicator just in case you want to utilize a separate indicator. All right. Anyway, that's it, folks. That's all I got for y'all. Take care. Cheers. And I will catch up with you tomorrow morning. And for the most part, going into election time tomorrow, I do have the vote. But after that, I'm probably going to be engaged for most of the day here on Discord, just to keep y'all updated on things I'm seeing in the market, things regarding elections. And yeah, we'll have a little community, chatter together and discuss all the things market related. Okay. That's it. Cheers. Have a good evening, good day, good night.